Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of this planner page. This is Johanna Basford's weekly planner. The page is from Enchanted Forest and it's also a free download, which I will include the link to in the description. So in the last video we coloured the owl. Now if you haven't done it, you can go back and do it now, or you can just follow this video and then do it later. It doesn't make any difference which order you go in. But what we're going to start with today is the background. Now I feel that we are sitting in a very dense woodland, and in the background we would just see more leaves. Now there are lots of ways you could do the leaves in the background. You could draw some in, you could do a sort of bokeh type effect going on, you could do a fade into the centre, you could do a plain block colour, and it's obviously completely up to you. My choice is to do something dark so that the leaves in the front foreground are a bit paler. I think that's going to help them to stand out a little bit more. And so I'm looking through my greens at the moment. I've got my swatch chart here and I'm going to choose a dark one. Now the Terra Verde Deep is really the darkest, but it's very grey. So, and the Terra Verde, I'm not very keen on those. I don't think it's going to quite work. Now the Chrome Green and the Hooker's Green are really similar, and they're both our sort of next darkest, and because of their tone they look a bit shadowy, so I'm going to use one of those. And as I said, they're so similar. The Hooker's Green, for me, that's not really a Hooker's Green. I feel like a Hooker's Green is more bluey green and a little bit lighter, but it doesn't really matter. So I am going to use probably the Hooker's. I'm just going to have a look and find it, because it was either that or the Chrome Green. I'm just going to see, that's the Chrome Green. I'm just going to compare them. Here they are. I'm comparing them lengthwise because I sort of want to use one I haven't used much. I'm also going to do a little swatch on the corner of my book. I've got my book upside down. There we go. So this is the Chrome Green. Okay. And this is the Hooker's Green. The Hooker's Green is slightly more bluey and it is slightly darker. I rather like it actually. I think I'm going to use the Hooker's Petite. Can't speak, to be honest. It doesn't make a big difference. So that's my notebook where I scribble down all the colours that I've been using so that I can put them in my description. So I like the idea of doing dark to light. So starting so that we've almost got a little frame around the owl. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just start in a space here and just start filling in, really. It's not rocket science. I'm actually just going to block it in. I'm not going to do very much, particularly on this very outside. So I'm going to start with the outer gaps first and do these in the sort of darkest colour I think I want. I'm not going to layer it up too much. I don't think that's completely necessary, but I may change my mind. I can't speak this afternoon. I don't know why. I've just been looking at my boys' timetables for college. One of my boys has got a class where he's in at 9:15 for a class, and then sometime after, in the middle of the day, he has the 9:15 is a 2-hour lecture. Then sometime in the middle of the day he has, I'm just trying to work out what's going on, that's the gap, a 2-hour seminar, and then he has to hang around for a 3:15 to 5:15 class. Now unfortunately the refectory at the university only sells sandwiches, so some beeping going on outside, so he can't get a cooked meal. So I suggested that he have a sort of pasta salad and a sandwich or something to take with him. Then he's got 2 meals, because we usually eat really early. Now his train is on the 5:15, so as his class finishes at 5:15, he'll have to get the 6:15 train, which means he won't be home till 7 o'clock, which is very late for us to eat. I know some people don't eat till 8, but we usually eat at 5. I may start cooking a little later if he put her consistently in later, but it didn't seem like that was necessarily going to be the case. I'm just working around the edge because I'm going to make it quite far away, aren't I? It's coming a little bit. But I need to see all the edge because I'm going to maybe make it a bit paler as we come in. So I'm just doing these sort of edge sections. This one gets quite far in, so I'm going to begin to fade it a little bit. Like that. And I find it easier to do the background first, but if I'm doing it with pencil, but if I'm doing it with pastels, I would do it last. Normally, occasionally I don't, because if I was doing pens, for example, my paper isn't square. You can see the pages underneath, which is no, that didn't work. Yeah, sometimes I change my mind slightly. There isn't a right or wrong way of doing it. It's just that once you put pastel down, it can come off on your hands. So you just have to be aware of that, really. You can use some fixative before you do the next bit, whatever. But I find it easier not to use fixative. Anyway, we'll save that conversation for when we actually are doing pastels, which we're not today. And I have had it many times on pastel videos. Right, yeah. So it looks like they all get a Wednesday off. My sister was looking at her daughter's timetable too, because she's going to the same place as them. And so yeah, it looks like they all get Wednesday afternoon off. It's probably when the sports clubs meet. It's very traditional in UK schools for sports to be on Wednesday afternoons. So maybe they do a similar thing. But then maybe they run all the social activities on the Wednesday, I don't know. So they might want to go in anyway if they've got something running. But we'll have to wait and see. So I think it's all quite exciting. It doesn't look like they'll be too jam-packed. It does look like they'll be in, I think from what I could tell, they'd be in 3 days a week for classes, which is what I was expecting, really. And I've got to go in to the train station to see whether we can get any sort of special ticket. If they're in not all the time, you know, I'd probably get them a young person's rail card, which knocks a third off tickets, but not all tickets, so I'm not sure. We'll have to see. And also they might be able to get, they're hoping to sort of get a monthly ticket or something, so they don't have to keep buying a ticket every day, because it's quite it's quite annoying, isn't it? I used to do it when I used to I used to buy a weekly ticket when I used to travel by train to work. That's right, it's a bit cheaper. Or was it a 10-day ticket? I can't remember now. Anyway, it worked out better. But anyway, I will go and ask at the station. I mean, they should be doing this, I know, but a bit shy. If they come with me, they get to learn what to ask and stuff, you know. But anyway, it's good. I really, really, really hope they enjoy it, because I absolutely loved my time at university. But I didn't have such a long commute as them. But I had to walk, I think it was a 40-minute walk. But they'll have like an hour's and a quarter's commute, I think. It's a bit longer, but they'll need to get used to it. I mean, the problem is we live in a town that's hasn't got massive services. So we have to commute to things, but it's a nice, pretty place to live. So, you know, it's very likely that they'll probably move to a larger town when they get a job. But we'll just have to see. I mean, most people who live near us and are working. They've got a lot of retired people. One person working from home, one person living in the next town, and actually a smaller town, funnily enough. Do we gotta have a similar bit like this on the other side? Isn't this not symmetrical? Just trying to work this out. I guess it's that bit, but no. Oh, it's that bit. It's cut off a bit. That's it. Yeah. So people do tend to commute. Actually, one of our neighbours works in the town centre here, so maybe not everyone does. But yeah, I'm trying to work out if I'm supposed to fill that bit in. I think so. I'm sort of looking at the other side for guidance, but it isn't on there. So I'm just having to guess a little bit. I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. But I find that I often do with these sorts of putting a background in. It can often be a little bit tricky. This bit needs to be a bit lighter because it's further in. That bit can be a bit dark. Okay. It was quite funny because my one son on the Friday afternoon of Freshers Week, he's got it says whole school trip, because the departments tend to be called schools. And my other son is like, oh, we got a school trip, you know, as if you're like 5 and you've got an outing to the wildlife park. But anyway, it's quite funny. But I think it's mini golf. It's like a social, but I don't know if he'll go. He might do. It might be, you might have to. Well, I don't think they can't really make things compulsory when you're over 18, you know. But we'll see what happens. I think it's good to go to these sort of early sessions because you get to make friends, meet new people. I don't remember having anything like that. I think we had the one day where we could go in and look at all the clubs and things like that. I've missed this bit out because I'm a bit confused. Yeah, and I think that was it. But anyway, well, we'll see what they decide. And it'll be good practice actually because, well, there's a lot of intro meetings and things, introduction to the courses, that sort of thing, what to expect. I think those are quite important, and you get to meet your tutor because they all have a personal tutor that they can go to. I found mine quite useful because I changed my course and he helped me, and also he taught me at one point because he already knew me. That was nice, you know. Actually, I got the top mark in the essay. He was a really tough marker, and no one got the top mark. But now I've done the sort of edge. I'm going to slowly come in and try and sort of fade it a bit. I might have over faded it a bit already, so we'll see how it all goes. I think I'm going to start up here and just go right to the owl. He's quite close to the edge here. Yeah, no one got, it was an economics module because I was doing business. And I changed my course. This is my first year or my second year, I can't remember. And I was doing business and I changed my course to psychology. But quite a big change, yeah. It's just something I was interested in. I picked up a few modules and really liked it and changed. But anyway, the economics, I got an economics A level. I didn't do very well. I got a D, which is my top mark in A levels. But I found it very, very hard. And so when it came to studying it for this module, I had a fairly good understanding of some of the basics, even though I wasn't very good, and going through the module was almost like a revision, and it was explained even better, much better than some of the aspects had been explained at my school. We had one very good teacher and a couple that weren't quite so good, so and also with some of the more complicated principles, I think having it explained a few times helps. So so I was really on it and understanding it, and everyone was finding it, although the teacher was very good, the tutor, people were finding it very hard, which is quite understandable. But so I got the top mark in the class, which was the equivalent of a B, basically A, B, C, D, etc. And the person who always got the top mark, so I used to chatter to, he got a few marks below me, and I could tell he was just so gutted, because he always got the top mark. And there's something under my page. A bit of pencil sharpening under there. That's not good, is it? So he was not happy. I mean, he congratulated me and gave me a high five, but I could tell that, he wasn't happy. But no one got brilliant marks, but that was okay. It was a tough module, and as I say, it was well taught, and the teacher was just a bit tight with marks, but it was okay. It's that mark, I didn't actually need to count that mark anyway, because what happened with our course was, I don't know if this is what they do at that university now, was that if you passed every module, you got your honours with your degree, and if your actual mark, whether you got a first, 2-1, 2-2 or third, would depend on what you got for each module, and your first year modules wouldn't count at all, and your second and third year modules, you needed a 20%, between 20 and 50% of your second year modules, I think, and then the same, at least 50%, but up to 70, 80, let's get the maths right, up to 80% of your third year modules, which is your final year. So you sort of had a chance in first year to sort of get used to things, and marks didn't count, and even in second year your marks, they didn't all count, but some of them would have to, so it was wise to work hard. And also, what's that line? Is that a bit of the owl that I've missed out? I think it is. Well, I'll sort that out in a bit. So yes, it was good to get into the habit of doing well in second year, because it certainly could count. But I was pleased with how I did in the end. I got a 2-1 and enjoyed it a lot. I wanted to do better, but actually a 2-1 was what I needed. There's a bit in here. And was what I noticed that a lot of jobs afterwards said you either needed a 2-1 or a first, or a 2-2 or a third. They would sort of group them together, so it didn't really matter whether you got your first or 2-1. But it's always nice to get the top mark. I've never done that. Never got an A in anything that counts. Obviously I have got A's, but actually for a final grade, proper end of course mark, I've never got an A. So it would have been nice. Still time. I don't know what I'd do. For my master's degree, it was just, it was pass, fail and distinction, and I got a pass, so I didn't get the distinction, which would have been the equivalent, I guess. But again, I just couldn't write in that style. you had to use lots of long words. It's just not the way I do things. Now this is, I hope you're sort of colouring along. There's nothing much to tell you really. I'm just filling in all the spaces and trying to keep a slightly lighter hand nearer the centre than on the edge. If it's a bit messy and the gradient doesn't work, I'll come back in and play with it after. But at the moment I'm happy with it. It is a bit sketchy, it's not perfect, but I don't know if it really needs to be because it's just the background. You know, I think the leaves in the foreground are the things that really need to look nice and neat and tidy and layered up so they stand out. I'm hoping the background will just sort of fade back and won't really feature, if you know what I mean. I didn't want it white. I didn't think that would quite work for this, but you know, I mean, you can by all means leave yours white if you feel this won't work for you. And you could of course do a pastel background, because if you use something light, so do the opposite to what I'm doing. If you use something light, then you can colour over it. You can put it over everything, including all the leaves, not over the owl, but put it over all the leaves and stuff, and then you can just colour over them and with the pastel in the background. That's a different idea. Or you can put your pastel on at the end and put it on top of the leaves. Of what, you know, on top of what you've coloured, but that might change what the colours you've used quite significantly. Now something we need to think about while we're colouring away is what do we do with all these leaves? Do we keep them green or do we do them autumnal? Or what? Well, is this an autumn or a spring picture? Well, the very top of the page, I'm not going to look up or else I'm going to make a mess. There are some what look like horse chestnut cases, the spiky seed cases, which would imply sort of September-y time, so it could just be the start of autumn. So we could do autumn colours, excuse me, but because our owl is so distinctly brown, I'm thinking that if we do the leaves green, then the owl stands out because he's a different colour. As if the leaves are green as well, he will become camouflaged. Now you might like the idea of him being a little bit camouflaged, but personally I want him to stand out. So for me, the best option is to do the leaves in green. But as I say, it's up to you what you like. Autumnal colours are certainly pretty and tempting. It isn't really autumn quite yet. Sometimes the weather feels a bit autumnal. I saw my neighbour in Waitrose and she said she was going rusty because it's rained so much over our summer. But I don't mind, to be honest. It's hot and sunny today and it feels really sticky and muggy. It's okay in here. In the other room it's really hot. I don't know why it's so much cooler in here. Not that I'm complaining. I think because the boys have got their hot computers on. That's got something to do with it. They did have a break this morning apparently when I was out and did some driving test revision. And if their timetables are right, it looks like they've got Wednesdays off, then could possibly book them their driving theory test for a Wednesday. Because they won't be ready before they start now. Because we're not booking anything for our family week that I was discussing in the first video. So we've got to fit in. That bit is darker than that bit, which doesn't look very good, so I'm just going to darken this bit a little bit so that it doesn't look too odd. Getting a bit slack as we're going on. It's very like me. I sort of find, I don't know if you find this too, that when I'm doing a picture I colour the bits I like the best first, and then as I get towards the end, I'm getting towards the finish line, getting excited that I'm going to finish, not because I want to get it over and done with, but because of the satisfaction of finishing a picture. It's a very different thing in my head. So I start maybe rushing a bit, and doing the bits I'm not so keen on means I'm maybe not quite enjoying it so much, although it depends, sometimes I do. And so, you know, the bit I could look at a picture and easily tell which bits I did first and last, but when I'm making a video I do try not to be like that. But I am a bit with this bit. Oh, Swippy book. But I hope that you can see, I can see in my camera, because the picture's really tiny, I can really see the progression of colour from light to dark in the background. I'm not going to do that with the leaves in the foreground though. I'm going to keep, I'm going to try and keep that, just they've got acorn here as well. I'm going to try and keep those in the foreground. So, and no, I'm not going to do it with those. I don't know, I can't get my words out, but I just know. My parents are saying they're booking a holiday soon, but they phoned me and said they were thinking of somewhere. My mum said to my dad, have you found anything yet? And he said no. And then after they hung up from me, they rang my sister and she said they were arguing over where to go. Not arguing, but they've already had a holiday this year on the south coast in Torquay, I think. And I'm just observing, and I'm going to just tidy up a few bits. And my mum wanted to go back there, but my dad was like, no, I want to go somewhere different. And my dad doesn't like doing the same things, you know. I mean, they've been there before anyway, a few times, and that's fine. But going back twice in the same year, that does seem a bit silly. So I don't know what they found. They used to like going to London quite a lot. But I think it's a bit busy. And it sounds really funny, but it's full of tourists. Yes, you'd be a tourist if you're a visitor, whether you're British or not. But yeah, it's full of lots of tourists. So, I mean, that's fine, but it's just busy. And whereas if you go, there are other places you can go which are far less full of tourists. But anyway, we'll see. I suggested a few places, but they also have to be able to get there on the train. They don't like driving on holiday, having a break, so they like going there on the train and then using their free bus pass to travel around various places. So they need somewhere that's sort of easily accessible by public transport, which does cut down a few options. But let's see whether they come up with anything by the time I speak to them next. I do need to speak to them because we're actually going to visit them next week. I need to make sure they're going to be there. Just sort of make the assumption, oh, by the way, coming to see you. What? Yeah, I said to my husband, oh, I need you to pick me up from there. He's like, oh, you didn't say. Oh. Anyways, yeah, my son's got a hospital appointment for his teeth. It's just a follow-up, really. He's fine. It's for his orthodontics. And we've got to nip over to the town where my parents live for that. So as I said, you know, we're a small town. We don't have much going on here. Right, so over here needs a bit. Now we just need to do that bit of the owl that I'd missed, that I'd mentioned, and then I think I'm going to leave this for now. She says, not stopping, keep on fiddling. It's tempting to keep fiddling. You can fiddle with yours for as long as you wish. Right, so the these two bits up here. Now the owl was done in. There was a very small. Light background of raw umber. I seem to remember. Just light. And then this was, what colour was it? It wasn't the cinnamon, was it? It was the brown ochre. Is that right? I wrote it down. No, was it the burnt? Nah, hang on. It was the burnt sienna, wasn't it? That's right. I'm just going to cover it all over in the burnt sienna because if it was fading down to there, It might be part of this one. Then this is quite intense, so we need to make that intense as well, like that. Okay, now that has taken half an hour, so I think that's plenty for today. Although it looks like I've done very little, I feel like I've done a fair bit. And we'll do the leaves. Now the leaves are symmetrical, so I may just do half, but I haven't decided yet. I'll just see how it goes tomorrow, and see how long it takes really. I've just found another bit. Now I'm going to keep this pencil handy because I'll probably find that I've got a lot of tidying up to do, and as I do each section of leaves I might want to tidy up the background around it, but as I say, for now I'm going to leave that there. So thank you so much for watching. As I say, have a super day, and yeah, see you tomorrow. Happy colouring.